Welcome, Wendy.
Hi, Michelle. Thanks for having me.
Always so much fun to have you here and to tap into your wisdom and expertise, and always so fun to connect. So many of you know Wendy, but for those of you that may not be aware, Wendy is a media celebrated author, screenwriter, and a dating, sex, and relationship expert. So Wendy, I want to be able to really tap into your wisdom today because I know you've been doing this work in the space of relationships, love, dating for a long, long time. And I know that you've worked with a lot of different people from a lot of different backgrounds and walks of life. And I'm just curious, based on all of your research and all of your years of work, what are some things that you commonly see that get in the way of people having the love that they really desire in their lives?
Well, for starters, it can feel really hard. Like, how is it that I'm going to go meet the love of my life out there amongst all of the people when everybody's buried in their phones and everybody's not really available for chit chat in the line at the coffee store? And oh, wait, no, what we need is a pandemic. So there is no coffee store and there is no, it seems hard, right? Like,
Right,
could we make
right.
it any harder to meet people in the world?
Right.
So I think that the fact that meeting new people is intimidating as it is, and then the things that get thrown at us that make it even harder can sometimes feel insurmountable to people. And then what I also see is a lot of women do not want to date online. They want to meet him in the real world. So that adds another layer to making dating hard.
You're so right. You're so right. And I hear that frequently. Women say, I want to meet him in the real world, in real life. I understand that. I mean, I understand that sentiment. I also understand, especially with the pandemic, that's all that much more challenging. Like you said, it wasn't easy to begin with. Then you had this layer of the pandemic. And how do people like really make connections? So this does feel daunting. You're absolutely right.
Well, there is this whole new group of men that we've never really considered as in our dating pool, which is all the delivery guys, all the DoorDash, the Instacart, Safeway delivery. So and I'm sure those guys are great. I go for that. Go for any guy you want to, or any lady you want to, if you're dating ladies, whoever you want. But yeah, there's some effort that is going to be needing to be made and accommodation for what the situation is. Can I share a victory with you,
Absolutely,
Michelle?
absolutely.
I have this one client who, she's so adorable. She was just really gung-ho, and she was having a particular hard time finding men that resonated with who she was. And she's a little bit of a harder match. And she kept going out, she kept trying, and then the pandemic hit, and I thought that she was gonna just put a pin in it, right? Like many women did around March 15th, they put a pin in it.
Right.
And she said, yeah, I'm not gonna do that. I'll just video date. I said, great. Now let's talk about what you need to be ready for with video and what you might judge about video, which maybe you might want to hold off on that judgment for 2 seconds, which we can talk about that too. So I gave her all my, handy tips for video dating. And she said, nope, I'm going to social distance date in real life with masks on. Oh, okay. This is when we were brand new and we're all locked down and couldn't visit anybody ever. And she's out there meeting people in the real world with their mask on and 20 feet apart because we didn't know how far to be apart at that time. And
right.
She just kept going, and she had a couple of really bad blows and she didn't take a break. And I said, oh, it might be time for you to take a break. Just like a week break, a 2-week break, just to heal. Nope. Well, it's been 6 months and she's now happily in a the last 6 months she's been in a relationship with a really solid guy who's her guy. I feel really confident that he's not going anywhere, and they're a really great match. So love in times of pandemic. And I thought to myself, I went on 121 first dates to get to my partner,
Mhm.
121 first dates to get to Dave. But could I have dated through a pandemic the way she did? I don't
Yeah.
know if I could. I don't know if I could. So I think that we all need to give ourselves a break for our own limitations and also get a little bit brave to try something new. Because if what our heart desires is partnership, we've got to keep moving through this no matter how hard it is, if that's the goal.
Mhm. Yeah, I love what you just shared. And I really like that story about your client and how she had that tenacity. And it kind of reminds me of something that I think about from time to time. I followed a business mentor for a number of years. And one of the things she used to say was that it was important to be committed, but not attached. So when we think about that in terms of business, she was talking more about, you're committed to your big business goals and the direction you're moving, but you're not attached to having it happen in a certain way or time frame. Like there's going to be some twists and turns, right? And I think this applies also to our love lives because, I don't know about you, but for me, I just thought this was going to be an easy thing for me to meet and attract the right person. I just thought that was just going to fall into place. The magical, fairy dust was going to fall down and everything was going to be fine and beautiful. That was certainly not my journey, as you know. And it's not for many people. And for many of us, especially if you're here, that's probably not been your journey either. There are these twists and turns. But I like this idea, and I think this is illustrated by your story about your client, Wendy, where she was committed to what she wanted. She was committed to this idea of finding the kind of relationship that she wanted. She obviously wasn't attached to it happening exactly in the specific way she planned because none of us could have seen that coming. And so I like the idea of, okay, yeah, we may have to adapt or adjust according to what we're able to do and what we feel is right for us. And of course, what we feel is safe. But I think there's ways to kind of look at what is the opportunity within this situation as well, which your client obviously did.
Yeah. And one of the things we talked about was video dating. And some people are just a hard no to a Zoom meeting. And then other people think, well, I'm not going to be able to tell if there's real chemistry, just like you can't over the phone or through writing back and forth. So I do recommend taking the steps that you need to move that ball forward, to get to somebody quickly instead of not using the tools we have and writing back and forth for an extended period of time. I want people to have the most information they can as soon as possible, because if we can't move through this quickly, that's part of the block, part of the problem to dating is we can get really weighed down with one person, that once you really get to know them or even get to see them, clearly they're not a good fit for you. But you've now wasted all this time online or through writing or through the phone. If you'd spent 20 minutes on Zoom, you might get more information that you need.
Yeah, I think you're making a really good point. And actually, that reminds me of something that one of my clients has implemented. When I did my event last year, was right when the pandemic was ramping up. And so I did in conjunction with another expert, I did a workshop on video dating and how to do it and how to use it and how to use it effectively. And you're right, Wendy, there were a lot of people that had a lot of resistance, and because, it's new and it's not the same as being in person, but it's kind of the next best thing. I mean, you and I are on Zoom right now and we're having a conversation and it feels like we're connected. It feels like we're talking. Sure, it's not the same as being in person, but we are connecting and we are in communication in a different way than we would be through email or messaging online. And so this client of mine, she was doing what your client was doing. She was trying to safely date during a pandemic, and she went on several dates. And a couple of these dates in particular, when they showed up, the person that showed up looked nothing like the person that she had seen online. The pictures were outdated, 10 years old and 50 pounds lighter, that kind of thing, right? Which is a common complaint for both men and women.
In there. Yes.
And so she said to me, after having some of these experiences, she said, what I'm going to do now is, she said, before I actually go to the trouble of putting on my mask, figuring out a plan, and going out to meet someone, I'm going to have a video date before I ever go to that point of meeting someone. So now she's implemented a video date as part of the process before she even goes to meet someone. And exactly what you're saying is happening. She can tell in some cases it's not going to be a match. So instead of spending all the time to get ready, go out, go meet someone, put on a mask, figure out the location and how you're going to handle all that, she's doing these short video dates and then making a decision about whether or not to take it to that next level. So that's another way it can fit into the plan as well.
And just think, like, how efficient is that you could like set up 15-minute dates and then do 15 minutes in between and get dressed from here up.
Just don't stand up. Just don't stand up.
That's some lazy dating right there.
Exactly.
I do want to share one thing that I noticed, because we were all kind of grasping at how to do this thing in the beginning, right? And when we got disconnected from all of our friends and family, one of the things that many of us did was started Zooming with them. And so I started Zooming with people I love and that I'm really close to and that I know very well and that I'm very connected to. And the relationship I had with them on Zoom was horrible. Like,
really
horrible. And not with everybody, but with some people. Like, I have one friend who he paces and he couldn't, it was distracting. And when I wanted to talk to him, I was looking at the camera, so I wasn't looking at him. And it just didn't work. It didn't work for the type of connection that we have in the real world. Mm. And I thought about dating and I just thought we need to also give permission for it to not go well on video, but maybe it's awkward or he's not connecting well, but you can see him and he's cute or cute enough, or you think he's cute. Is that a bald spot? Yeah. Right. So you can figure out, like, maybe the person I'm seeing on Zoom right now wouldn't be acting like this if we were at a park together, mm-hmm. or if we were at dinner together, or if we were on a social distance picnic together, or whatever real life looks like, right? So there has to also be some accommodation for this is better than writing back and forth, but this still also is not the real world, and it's not the exact connection that you're going to have when you're face-to-face.
Mm-hmm. That's such a good point. That is such a
rule people out. I mean, I would rule people out as my friends who are dear, loved, beloved friends of mine if I had to base our relationship on Zoom calls.
Right. Yeah, that's such a good point, Wendy. Well, and I think kind of like, I think it's kind of similar sometimes to a first date where you have kind of an awkward and kind of uncomfortable first date with someone. Maybe they're nervous, maybe you're nervous, maybe the guy talks nonstop because he's nervous or trying to impress you, or he doesn't say anything and it's like trying to pull teeth to try to get a conversation out of him. And that's sometimes why we say, in some cases, a second date is justified, because it's kind of like that first date awkwardness. So there's a parallel here. It's like if someone's not really comfortable on Zoom or on video, or this feels really bizarre to them, they might show up in a really awkward way in the same way as they might show up awkwardly on a first date. So I think that's a really good point. To say, yes, it could be a screening tool, but maybe there's room for making a bit of an allowance here too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what about the women out there that are, like you said, March 15th of last year, they kind of threw in the towel. And now we're in a new year. Not to say that the pandemic is completely behind us or anything, but we're in a new year. what can we say to these women that might be feeling like they want to dip their toe in the water again, but still feel like kind of a little bit of a tug of war internally? What do you think how do we handle this? Because I know there's people out there in that category.
I think that the biggest driving factor for helping yourself get unstuck is to remember that end goal in mind. We make time for what's important to us. Mm-hmm. And if what's important to us is finding the right person that's a good match to live your life with, you got to make time for that. And if we think about it, just like exercising and having a nice body, there are a lot of people who love exercise. I don't happen to be one of them.
I'm right there with you on that one.
But I know the end goal in mind is optimal health, especially as I age, right? So I don't do it for the love of doing it. I do it for the end result. And when I was on 121 first dates, I didn't love dating, but I was doing it for the end result. So I think the thing to help unstick yourself is to remember that end result, that what's at the end of the line for you, and work backwards from there and do the things that it takes to get that done. And sometimes it will be enjoyable and sometimes it won't. Mm-hmm. Just like life.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And I know, Wendy, for you with your 121 first dates, which, sounds daunting in any time. But I know that you did a lot of your dating or met a lot of the people through internet dating. So I just think you're in a unique situation to kind of make a case for internet dating. And I think that's a good way for people to start tipping their toe back in the water if they haven't been doing that. And you've already said January, February, a whole lot of new people come on. Yes. But make a little bit of a case, if you will, for those people that are resistant to internet dating and are like all about, I know I want to meet them in an organic way in real life, because you and I hear this all the time, right?
Yeah, and look, for the people who are putting themselves out there in the world in really big ways and meet tons of people in the real world, you got this. You don't need to listen to us. You don't need to date online if you're going to event after event after event where all these single guys are around and talking to you and asking you out for Saturday night. Is that happening?
Yeah, everybody's going, where is that place that we're going to go to? Let me get out my pen and paper so I can write down.
Yeah, that one location, or the 17 locations that, if you hire a coach, they can tell you the secret 17 locations of where to meet him in the real world.
Right.
And there are, people do walk around the planet. There are real world places that we can meet people. But unfortunately, what happens is men don't talk to us in the world anymore. They don't feel safe to do that because they don't want to impede on our day. They don't have consent to speak to the stranger. So the way that a man used to flirt with a woman at the coffee shop in the 80s or the 90s or even the early 2000s, that does not happen today. Does not happen. Not going to happen. Never going to happen. They need such a green light to have any real world action happen. So if you want to do real world, you have to absolutely be the one to go up and say, "Hi, how are you? I'm so and so. You're an interesting person. Let's chit chat." Because they're not going to do that. So online, much easier. Really great inventory. Access to men other than the ones who are delivering your food right now. Right. Right. And it gave me access. So first off, I loved internet dating. I didn't love internet dating, but I used internet dating and loved the results of internet dating. And in fact, you said 121, you used it for a lot of your dates, almost all of them. Mm-hmm. Well over 100 of my 121 dates were all internet dates. And it's because I didn't have access to men in the real world. There was just no access. I worked from home. I had no access other than the Whole Foods clerk. or
Right.
the UPS driver. That's
Right.
all the access I had. The tech executive working in Silicon Valley, I didn't have access to that guy. How was I going to get access to that guy from my apartment?
Mhm.
So, right? So you get access to people you don't normally have access to, and it creates a whole new world for you. And I think part of the resistance is there's all this jockeying for, well, he needs to be this and I need to be that, and he needs to have this and there needs to be this type of lifestyle, and oh, well, he's a loser and that guy's creepy. And so when we start using all these labels for, oh, that one's out of my league, for trying to measure the status and where he fits, it can feel kind of gross.
Yeah.
When we see all the jerks and the losers, and oh, I bet he's a cheater or a player, all these little labels, it just drags it all down.
Yeah.
And the whole thing kind of gross. So, hot tip, if you're willing to go out internet dating and have access to a world of men that you don't have access to right now, then instead of looking and scrutinizing and labeling, I would look and scrutinize and decide, is he a fit or is he not a fit? Oh, that one's super not a fit. Definitely not a fit, right? And instead of having to do all this weird stuff that we do by nature in trying to find out where we fit in this world and how people fit in with us in this world. It just made dating in general so much nicer when I could just go, oh yeah, that's nope, not a fit. Whether it was someone I saw and passed on, or whether it was someone I dated for 3 times and then found out, oh, we actually have futures that don't align well together. We're not a fit.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
So
I want to clarify this just a little bit, Wendy. So are you saying instead of like prejudging, instead of like making assumptions, and because we can only tell so much about someone, I mean, people can look perfect on screen on a dating site and they don't show up that way, or they're not a fit for us when we meet them, or vice versa. So you're saying instead of like getting caught up in all of that, are you saying just look at it through the lens of, are we a fit for each other or are we not? And it's not a personal thing against them or you if you're not a fit. It's just you're not a fit. You could be 2 perfectly wonderful people, not a fit for each other.
Yeah, and it's something that you can just think inside. You don't have to say it out loud, or you might say it to your dog or even a friend, but it's instead of, oh, whoa, and then getting into the nitty gritty of how gross they are, or what a player they are. Grizzly Adams, what kind of lifestyle? Who does that in 2021? Like, instead of going down the rabbit hole of justifying and labeling and trying to make assumptions about, just fit, not fit, fit, not fit, fit, not fit.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that a lot. I also think it helps prevent women from making up a story like, the only ones that like me are these, whatever category we're putting them in.
Player, loser, whatever, right?
Right.
And then the other side, when he doesn't like you back, oh, you just weren't a fit. It wasn't that you weren't enough. It wasn't that you were too old, too fat, too outgoing, not outgoing enough, all the things that we make up about why we didn't get picked.
Mm-hmm.
You just weren't fit.
Mm-hmm. And I would guess, based on your story, Wendy, that's part of what helped you to keep moving through the 121 days. Because if you'd have gotten really bogged down with all of the stories, like, oh my gosh, 86 times and it's still not the right one.
Yeah, and you nailed it. Like the number one reason I was able to keep moving through to get all the way to 121 and then married was because I didn't get so weighed down in the muck of it.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that
just described is the muck of it, right?
Say that again.
What we just described, that rabbit hole of labeling and justifying and all that stuff. We don't need to justify why we're not going to say yes to that guy. You don't need to. The answer is, I am not feeling it. There's nothing else that you don't need to justify to him, to you, to your best friend, to anybody.
Right.
Not a fit.
Right. I like that. It kind of just, streamlines that and helps us from adding layer upon layer of story upon story. And, and I even say to women, I'm like, when they say to me, well, it seems like the ones that write to me or the ones that reach out to me are not the ones that I would choose. And the ones that I reach out to don't reach back out to me. And that certainly does happen sometimes, but I also think, and they find it depressing because they see these guys that are not a fit reaching out to them and start making up stories about that. The only ones that are attracted to me are this, this, this. And in reality, I say, it's actually a compliment. If so, he's 20 years older, so he's 20 years younger, so he's this or that or the other, in whatever way they don't see them being a fit. It's a compliment that men from all different backgrounds and walks of life find you attractive. Like, what if we could make that up as the story around it instead of it in a negative interpretation?
Absolutely. I wanted to talk about something else that happens, which is the automatic no.
The automatic no.
The automatic no. Nope. I remember one date that I went on with a spectacular man who is a very good friend of mine today. But I saw him and he was really cute, really cute. But I date older. I don't date younger. And he was 3 years younger than me, but he looked about 10 years younger than me. He looked really young. And I saw him, and I mean, he looked like he looked in his pictures, but I just somehow hoped he was older when I got to him. And when I went on that date and I saw him and he walked in the door and he looked at me and he had this big smile, which is a great sign, as you know. My gut just went, nope, too young. Well, no, he actually was amazing. He was a really great guy who would have been a fit for me in many ways. And luckily I didn't run out of the room. We had a date, and on that date, he was spectacular. But we'll do that. We'll either online visually or on that moment we see him in real life or on that video. Nope. See if you can just push past that for a second to see if you can see the person, including photos. One of the greatest tips I ever had is if you really love his profile, but he doesn't look that great in his pictures, check it out, because he might take really bad pictures. I don't know if you've noticed this, but men take horrible pictures.
Oh, yeah.
One of my very favorite dates, first date number 113, had really beady eyes.
Oh.
He looked super creepy and the angles were all funky and he just was not an attractive man. But he was a writer and I'm a writer and I love a good writer. So I read what he wrote, this creepy, not attractive man, and I really liked him. And he had a lot of status, and I thought, all right, what do I got to lose? I had a lot of capacity that week. I wasn't always this generous in spirit week by week, but this particular week I was feeling pretty good. I had some time. I was going to let the creepy guy with the beady eyes through the wall, right? So I meet him out for a quick drink. He is beautiful. His
Really?
eyes are not, he's gorgeous. His eyes are not beady. We ended up closing down the joint. We dated for a couple of months. He was amazing. And I felt so lucky that I gave the beady eye guy a chance, because I know that so many women wouldn't.
Mm-hmm. I love that story. You were fortunate because he was scaring off a lot of other women with the beady eye photo. And you
scaring off all my competition.
I love that story.
Yeah.
We always laugh in these interviews, Wendy. You've always got a great story. It reminds me also of this party I was at back when I was single, and it was like wall to wall bodies. Of course, this is way, way, way years ago before COVID. And you could hardly even move in this house. There were so many people there. And that's not my scene because I'm more of an introverted personality. So I felt a little bit uncomfortable anyway. And then I got kind of wedged into this corner of the room because there were so many bodies. And there was this guy, and I swear he was like this far from my face, Wendy. And I had seen him before, it circulating at the party. And I had made one of those automatic, like, nope, 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 because this was a party mainly of singles. Now here we are, and we're like this far apart from each other, and I'm like basically cornered in this room because there's so many people I really can't move at this moment. So we end up starting to talk, this guy and I, who I'd already ruled out. And he turns out to be so funny and so interesting to talk to. We stand there and we talk, I swear, for like an hour. And I ended up dating him for a while, and he was this great guy. But I had like, this is exactly what you're talking about. I had taken a look at him from across the room before I'd even talked to him or anything. And I had said, yeah, nope, not for me. It was that instantaneous, not attracted, not interested. He ended up being an amazing guy. And I would have never dated him. I would have never had that experience had we not literally got trapped in the corner, like this far apart.
Yeah. And if you had seen him online, you would have been a hard pass, right?
Exactly. Exactly. So I think that's such a good point. And you and I have both had clients as well as had these experiences in our own lives where they meet someone or they see someone online, they meet them, they're like, yeah, not my type. I don't think this is the guy for me. Then they get to know them and they find out how amazing they are and how much they enjoy being with them and how well they treat them. They fall madly in love. I mean, I have a client in her 60s right now who's now married to this guy that after her first date, she met him online. We were working together at the time. After the first date, she said to me, well, I really think he's so nice and he treated me so well and I like his style, but I'm just not attracted to his physical appearance. He's a little too skinny for me and losing a little hair on top. But the way she was describing him and how he was like really showing up and letting her know that he was interested in seeing her again in a really nice, lovely way. I said, yeah, maybe go out with him another time or two, just see how you feel. Ultimately, she ends up falling madly in love with him and they're now married.
So great. So many women are like that. It's true.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think this is a really, really great topic that we've been talking about here, Wendy, to really help inspire women if they did kind of put things on hold or have been kind of exploring whether to kind of get back in, some ideas and ways to at least start dipping your toe in the water. And if you have been trying to figure it out and navigate it, hopefully this will help. Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
Time to dust off those earrings and your lipstick and put a bra on. I don't know. Maybe.
Maybe. Yeah, I think the lipstick manufacturers are down in sales this year, right?
And they never put an underwire bra on again.
I totally get it. So Wendy, thank you so much. As always, it's always so fun to connect. We always have a great time, and I really always love tapping into your wisdom. So appreciate your generosity.
Thank you. It's always delightful to be with you. I really appreciate you, Michelle.
And everybody be sure to join us for more. Bye for now.
Bye, everybody.